Welcome to Sacred Harmony, where the body becomes a gateway to freedom and joy. Today's guest, Melanie Smithson, is a dancer, licensed somatic psychotherapist, and spiritual integration hypnotherapist, an award-winning author. Melanie has spent over 3 decades guiding people to release limiting patterns, using movements and somatic practices to transform thoughts, emotions, and habits that inhibit true well-being. Welcome to the show, Melanie. It's such an honor to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and talk about all these things that I love talking about.
So, Melanie, you've been a dancer since age 4. How has movement informed your understanding of emotional and psychological healing?
Yeah. Oh, in so many ways. And it's very interesting. Long before I became a therapist, I knew that if I was going through something intense, the best way for me to move it and be with it was to be in dance class. So back in my teens and my 20s, just moving without actually understanding the connection settled everything. I eventually went to school for dance movement therapy. And I actually learned there that even though I was really connected to my body in terms of being a mover, it was still pretty separate from thinking. So it was my studies at Naropa that showed me how to connect the thoughts with the body. And to go just a little further for right now, we hold emotions all over the body. This work was really developed by Candace Pert a good 30, 40 years ago. And we have emotional receptor sites everywhere, in the legs, in the chest, in the back, and an abundance in the stomach. And when we're young and we don't have the ability to process emotions, and so many of us didn't because we were either raised in a household where our parents didn't know what to do with our feelings, or where there was abuse and feelings were simply not allowed. But so many reasons we weren't taught. And so as children, we actually suppressed those feelings, held them in the body. So therapeutically, we have to go into the body in order for those feelings to be released completely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And also, can you share an example of how a simple somatic intervention helps someone release a long-held emotional block?
Yeah, I'll just tell you a real quick little story. I was working with a client just a couple of weeks ago who found me recently, had been in therapy with somebody for 5 years. And she liked her therapist. She was doing good work and she was learning a lot of things. And she had a lot of, good thoughts in her head. But she came to session in the middle of an upset. And it had been going on for several days. She had a big situation with the ex, and she just didn't really know what to do with herself. And she was feeling anxious. She was feeling angry. She was feeling sad. And I asked her to just stop and breathe and be with the sensations. And just that little bit of awareness, everything settled. And again, it's like we have not been educated about this. We don't know how to have a conversation with the body, but the body speaks through sensation. And learning to listen to sensation and not resist it is what shifts everything. So it's to me, it's such a travesty. I mean, even our medical doctors are not taught that emotions are held in the body. And I kind of get stuck there. It's like, how could we not be teaching doctors that emotions are held in the body when emotions are the cause of so many physical ailments? So understanding how to listen to the body, how to lean into it, how to support it. So not only, so like that's the first step. How do I just listen to sensation? How do I make space for it? So often sensation arises and resistance arises. I don't want this sensation. It doesn't feel good. So instead of opening to the sensation, we actually contract. And by contracting, we hold it in. So learning simply to open when there's a sensation is going to create a huge shift. But then to take it a step further, if I start to recognize that there's, some holding in my arms, this tightness, and I just listen, I go, okay, oh, there's a lot of tightness in my arms. Well, what would help in terms of movement? Well, maybe my arms want to just shake. Maybe they want to punch. Maybe they want to rattle. So following the sensation into movement takes it on a path of transformation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that connection between body and mind is fascinating. Like,
Yes.
it reminds us that wisdom is not stored. Like, it's stored and not just in thought, but in movement itself.
Yes. And, one of the things, we talk about in the spiritual realm, we say body, mind, spirit. But so often, even in our spiritual conversations, the body is absent. And unfortunately, a lot of spiritual work falls into spiritual bypass, where we're talking about peace, where we're talking about kindness, but we're not actually embodying it. So I feel it's like it's so time for this conversation on all levels, on a spiritual level, on a therapeutic level, on a physical health level. It's time for the body to get involved.
Is that? Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And also, your book, Shake Yourself Free, outlines
Yes.
81 somatic practices.
Yes.
So, how do these techniques help people let go of patterns that limit their joy?
Yeah. In so many ways. So we limit our joy. We limit our joy in our thinking by saying things like, I don't deserve to be happy, or nobody ever taught me to be happy. Or one of the things that I actually see a lot is we have an upper limit on how happy we're allowed to be. So I know I grew up in a family where if I got too excited, too exuberant, I was always told to settle down. And that itself caused a contraction in the body. Does that make sense? The pattern of
Mhm.
settle yourself leads
Yeah.
to pulling in. So if I wanted to work with that particular pattern and way of limiting my joy, I would start playing with bigger movements, with louder movements. And I would do that in a safe environment. I wouldn't do that in a place where, I might get yelled at or I might feel foolish. I would do it on the dance floor. I would do it in my bedroom. I would start to feel, what does it feel like if I spread my arms, if I let myself be joyful? So I would ask my body to show me, how do I find joy? Another place that we limit ourselves is with our worrying and our thinking. I mean, we overthink everything. And when you're thinking about having joyful experiences, you're actually not having joyful experiences. You're thinking about it and you're planning for it. I don't know how many people go on vacation. It's like, I've got to plan every single detail. And the planning actually negates our ability to be present and experience what is being put in front of us. So if we're caught in thinking, then again, so many ways to play with movement. I know one of the ones that I really like is when we're thinking too much and the mind is super busy, is okay. So in not instead, but along with that, could you let your mind be as busy as it is, but could you also move as fast as your mind is moving? So if you let your body just go as fast as your mind is going to start to settle down. Another practice that's actually also in my first book, Stress Free in 30 Seconds, is to shake your body. And this book is obviously Shake Yourself Free. There's a lot of shaking in it. But the act of shaking is so phenomenal. You know, animals show us this. When they've been traumatized, they shake. They shake the trauma off. But also, when we're thinking too much, if we just start shaking, it's really hard to hold on to a thought. If we start bouncing or shaking, and we can also do this in our mind's eye. So if you're sitting in a meeting and you're, finding yourself thinking about something, either that's happening in the meeting, something that's not happening in the meeting, but you're recognizing this thought is not terribly helpful, imagining bouncing those thoughts or swirling those thoughts is going to resolve them. They'll dissipate. So is there another example that you have of a way that we limit joy?
Mm-hmm. Um, I don't think I have any on the top of my head right now, but that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the body knows how to play. And it's one of the things that I talk about a lot is that sometimes the mind won't let go, or it thinks it can't let go. The body doesn't have that conversation. The body puts letting go into movement. So again, it's like the other work that I do is the work of Michael Newton. I don't know if you're familiar with Life Between Life, the book Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls. But in that work, I take people into, or they take themselves really into a deep state of trance, because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. But in that deep state of trance, we connect both to past lifetimes, but also to the space in between lifetimes. In that space, we meet with our friends, our counsel, our guides on the other side. I've been doing that work for 20 years. It is so common for the main theme to be let go. The guides are always telling us, oh, you should let that go. And what's great is when we're doing hypnosis is I can actually communicate through the client with the guide and say, well, yeah, while you're over there, while we're in spirit form, it's very easy to let everything go. And I know this in my own personal practice when I'm on some sort of, retreat. In retreat in a spiritual place, not a lot sticks to me. Everything moves through pretty easily. The allergies that I have in my normal everyday life don't exist because we're moving in a higher vibration. So letting go on the spiritual plane is much easier than letting go in a physical body. So when we're in these sessions, I'll say to the guide, again, through my client, is, okay, it's easy to let go when we're not in bodies. In human form, it's harder. Can you tell my client specifically the best way for them to let go? And what's great is they're always willing to cooperate because they are in support of this work. And they'll show us something like, well, open your hands, or imagine you have a balloon and you can just let the balloon lift off. But this practice of letting things dissolve and giving them back to spirit is where we can tap back into freedom. So I'm going to say a little bit more about that. We use the words give up as something negative, as like, oh, I'm going to just give up. I don't want to do this anymore. And I have to credit my dance teacher in Colorado for this. She showed us, when you think about the words give up, and this is where one of the ones I wish I could show you, but simply putting your hands up in the air. And let's just say there's something I'm worrying about. I take this and I just give it up. I give it up to the universe. You take this. I don't need it. So that practice, when we shift how the body typically thinks of giving up is something where we're droopy, to, hey, let me put my arms up and give this up to spirit. That's another way the body can support us and align us with all that we are. So so in my book, Shake Yourself Free, the bottom line, even though I'm working and have always worked with everything at the emotional level, it's how do we clear things out of the emotional body so that we are more in tune with the spiritual self? How do we clear things even out of the thinking mind? Again, so that there's more room for spirit.
Yeah. And that's so practical, like showing that liberation doesn't always require dramatic change without
Exactly.
consistent mindful movement.
Yes. And mindfulness with the body. My
Yeah.
teacher, Christine Caldwell, wrote a book called Bodyfulness. And so what does, mindfulness look like when the body is part of that journey? So, I might be in my mind, let's just say I'm in relationship with someone and not necessarily my primary relationship. Let's say that I have a boss or I have a web designer or a contractor that I'm in relationship with. And in my mind, I'm aware that I'm not happy about how the relationship is going. I'm not happy with the conversation. I'm not happy with the outcome. So my mind can have that awareness. But then how does my body support action having that awareness? So one of the ways, especially when I'm physically in the room with this person, one of the ways that my body can support the awareness that this is not going the way that I would like it to be going, it's not going smoothly, is I can take a step back. I can soften my body. I actually have a good story as I'm telling this that comes to mind. I was in Sedona many years ago for a retreat, and I had gone into a candle store and had a candle um, designed, crafted for my stepdaughter who was babysitting the dog. And I specifically asked for a Caribbean blue. I went and picked it up and it was a royal blue. I went home. I was like, oh, I don't think I like this. I think I have to take it back. I went back to the store, and the woman who could help me do the change was, I don't know what she had going on that day, but she was not nice. She was going, well, I could fix it, but I don't think you're going to like it. I can't guarantee you're going to like it. And I could, feel how, in that situation, we tend to get reactive when we want to fight back. But as I said, I was in a retreat. I was spending the week releasing. So I just said to myself, release. I took a breath. I softened my shoulders. I let go. And I was like, well, I hear you, but I'd still like you to try. And on a dime, Anya, she flipped. She said, oh, I could do this. I could do that. I could do this. So that simple practice of me softening my body, centering myself, allowed her space to do something different. So that's a way that we bring mindfulness into the moment and let the body support that awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And also, I love the title Bodyfulness. I think that's the first time I ever heard it, but it just makes so much sense.
Yes, yes, yes. And, the Course in Miracles, which I also teach and I love, Course in Miracles says, I am not a body, I am free. And I don't disagree. But because of that, so many people teaching the course and studying the course ignore the body. And that's not what the course says. The course says that the body is actually here as a means of communication. It's not what we are. So don't identify with it. It's kind of like when I get in the car, I know I'm not my car, but my car takes me places and does good things for me. And I take care of the car and I appreciate the car. And I listen when the car starts to sound like it's about to get sick. I mean, really, if we would only listen to our bodies as well as we listen to our cars, that would be a good start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Also, you emphasize the power of somatic intervention for both clients and therapists. How can professionals use the body to facilitate deeper breakthroughs in their work?
Oh, in so many ways, in so many ways. And I really do hope, I mean, this book is written for everyone, but I really hope that therapists and coaches who are really, they are starting to look more for how do I bring somatics in. But my teacher, the one who wrote Body Fullness, had said some 20 years ago that, or 30 years ago, that in the future, she saw doing therapy without body awareness was going to be considered unethical. So any therapist, any coach can bring body interventions into their work in some of the ways that we already talked about, just like what are you noticing in your body as you talk about that anger? Or what happens as we come back and track sensation. So a lot of therapists are trained in EMDR, and EMDR, eye movement reprocessing and desensitization, does have some body awareness in it. But if we go deeper into that, it makes that modality even more powerful. But that's why, that's why the book exists. There are 81 ways and 10 bonus practices when you get the book. And I could come up with 100 more of how do I use body awareness when working with thoughts, when working with feelings, when working with habits, when working with goals, when working with anything. The body is part of every single experience we've ever had. So it's not difficult. And I will tell you that to some extent, anybody doing any sort of mental work, to some extent, is already using body awareness just with the breath. So whether trained in somatics or not, if a client walked in a full-fledged panic attack, I hope people would say, okay, let's just breathe. Let's take a moment. Let's be together with this. Let's not resist this. But going even further and taking that again, so anxiety is a great example. So when somebody comes into my office and they tell me I deal with anxiety, I'll ask them, is there any of that here right now? And often it is. Yeah, I'm a little anxious just being in your office. Great. Let's work with it. So instead of labeling it anxiety, what does anxiety feel like in sensation? And, anxiety is one that most people feel: shortness of breath, racing heart, tightness in the chest. And so if we just stop and notice those sensations without resistance, they will diminish. So that's just one example, but I never do a session without some checking in with what's happening in the body. So again, a little bit of education in this area, I believe, would go a very long way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. And that's so insightful. Like, healing is often less about talking and more about feeling and releasing through the body.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, Melanie, thank you for showing us that the body is not just a vessel, but a guide to liberation and joy. And to our
Yes.
listeners, may you explore movement as medicine, release what no longer serves you, and reconnect to the playful, empowered self waiting within.